Welcome to the Chanel Ashby podcast on the EIP network. Excellence in porn, talent on loan from my cock. Each week, we're bringing you the best and worst of internet erotica in a review format, along with curious tidbits that we find interesting. In addition, I'm going to sound like Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
Hi, Chanel.
Too bad you don't look like Matthew McConaughey.
I mean, my younger days.
Before he got to be a serious actor, Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
I mean,
Got
guy
the
who
Lincoln
would take his
commercials.
shirt off and, swivel his hips a little bit.
Right, now.
Do a lot of push-ups and whatnot.
Now he's just got that hipster beard.
Yeah, now he's ugly. He's got to be a serious actor now.
Right, well, you get an Academy Award, and it kind of goes right to your cock.
That's what they tell you.
Right. So you had a busy week, didn't you?
I did. I was very busy this week. It's back to school.
Right. So you were out at Staples looking at rulers and yardsticks and hairbrushes.
All of my favorite back-to-school supplies.
Right.
Bad little boys and girls.
You've got to discipline them when it needs to be done.
Spare the rod.
Spoil it, cock. Right.
Yes. However, I did manage to read some smut this week. Did you?
I did. What did you read? Why don't you start out this week?
Well,
I'm a little spent.
Right, of course you are. I read something that I usually wouldn't read. It's a Dungeons and Dragons kind of paranormal fantasy
I don't
world.
think you were one of the D&D girls in high school, were you?
No.
No, I didn't. I'm not looking at you. I'm not getting that feel.
No.
I see you more like out back behind the school lighting up a doob.
Yeah.
Actually, probably not within 2 miles of the school lighting up a doob.
Go to school that often. Yeah, so this is, for a Dungeons and Dragons kind of group, and it's called the Fine Seta Coven by Dick Allen.
The what, Seta?
The Fine Seta.
Should you spell that for our listeners?
Well, yeah, it's spelled, and this is why I had to read it, because I'm a sucker for a play on words. It's spelled Phynsetta.
Right.
However, the female main character's name is Shihada Fine-Setta. Yeah. Yeah.
What was that song about bringing the shake to the yard? That's kind of like got that feel to it, doesn't it?
Right. So, Shihada Fine-Setta is a witch, and this story that I read is part 9 in a series. So, if you're into backstory and series, and some people are, you're probably going to want to start with part 1, because I got to admit, I was a little lost with the story part of it.
Right.
But if you're into fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of stuff and backstory, then this one's for you, because Dick Allen has written 2 really long series. It's got witches and genies, and the main male character's name is Erectus.
Erectus?
Right.
I'm very familiar
we hardly
with
knew him.
I'm really familiar with that character.
So they go to the female coven. It's backstory, and then it's a huge orgy. And Erectus is eating pussy, getting his dick sucked by 2 different witches, 4 different witches, who knows. Then he's getting fucked by all these different witches, because it was such a long time since there was a dude in the coven that all the female witches come super fast. And they're just using him for his dick. So he's just laying on the floor, just getting fucked by random people. And then
Lucky dude.
Right. The last witch, whose name is I've Gotta Fine-Setta.
They all share the same last name.
Uh-huh.
They're sister witches.
Right.
Okay.
They share like that. She's blonde and cute, and she's got the tightest pussy out of all the other witches. So, she's the last one, makes him come. But at the end, you get to find out that they were just fucking him because they had to collect his sweat for their spell.
What about the semen?
You know what? No discussion of what they did with the semen. But
how was it written? So with all the backstory, was the sex written good?
You know what? The sex was written fairly well. I would say, I said that I was giving it 2.5 boners just because for me, it was a lot of backstory.
Right. You're all about the smut.
Right. I mean, if it was all just that orgy scene and I would have just only read that, I would have probably given it like 4.5 boners.
Right.
But if you're into Dungeons and Dragons and you want like witches and goblins and genies and all that kind of shit, I think Dick Allen is your guy because he's got like 3 different series with that kind of shit on it. On Smashwords, there's a million parts and he's a good writer.
Well, then he should be commended for that.
Right.
I mean...
And it's funny. Fine setup.
We here at the Chanel Ashby podcast don't usually give a big thumbs up to backstory because, I mean, anyone who knows you, Chanel, knows that you're very task orientated. So her work day, right? So her work and your work day is very task orientated. So just you listeners, Chanel gets up in the morning and will do her stretching and hot yoga for about an hour, and then we'll go right into her coffee, which is a fine Nescafe brew that you have literally from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. But when you take masturbation breaks, they're 10, 15 minutes. It's get in, do what you got to do, and
when
then,
it's a work day,
right, and get back to the typewriter.
Yeah, you don't want to get too sidetracked.
Right.
You might start getting like a whole pony show going on in there. And
well, that was like that one time I came over and, you had like those like 4 women, 2 midgets, and like 6 dudes.
Right.
I don't know what was going on there. It was like a Tuesday.
Well, and they wouldn't take us at the Super 8 because we had more than 8.
Right. It was a party. Wish we were podcasting that day.
Right.
That would have been something. We would have had guest after guest after guest. That would have been fun.
Fine set of Coven. I'm giving it thumbs up, despite the fact that it isn't quite as task-oriented as maybe I would like it to be.
Well, that's okay. That's if you like that type of like D&D kind of mystical type of writing with backstory. Right. This could be perfect for you then.
Gandalf with Dick.
You see his staff.
What did you read?
I read a couple things, but I have a very special review this week. I noticed that you had posted on Smashwords Back to School Lesson 1.
That's right.
And so I decided that one of my reviews this week was going to be one of your fine works, Chanel.
Why, how awesome is that? That's a complete surprise.
It's an excellent, excellent read, and it's a perfect precursor to the series.
Right? It's actually just the introduction. It's enough to get your mouth wet.
Right.
And perhaps your panties, and that's about it. Because it's free.
It's free on Smashwords, episode 1, so to speak. Lesson 1, more appropriate. And it chronicles the story of a college professor and his student for the semester. He talks about how every year or semester he picks a new young co-ed to chain up in his basement.
Right.
And he has now identified Kelsey as this semester's lucky winner. And I say winner, not loser. And it starts out with her trying to basically use her looks to get a better grade and basically a pass on the class, and finishes off with her bent over his desk getting spanked, her bottom now hot and red with handprints, his dick pressing up against her cotton thong. And that's kind of where the story ends. So while it contemplates taking her anal virginity.
Right.
Right. Yeah, now it's a good time. It's a good thing I had my pants off when I read it. So, but yeah, I can't wait to read episode 2, lesson 2.
Right. Well, you know what? I'm going to continue it just as throughout the school year for all my fine students and teachers.
It's definitely a dom-sub relationship with him as the disciplinarian, putting the young wayward cunt, as he refers to her, in her place.
Right. It's very male dominant, female submissive, which is not my usual go-to.
No, but written really hot. I liked it.
Why, thank
All right.
you.
It was good. So I also read a really quick read by Wynn Burroughs called "I'm a Bad Babysitter." Now, just to give you a little backstory, Wynn, according to her author's notes, is a nurse in, I believe it was Philadelphia, but she's bi, poly, and proud. And based on her other titles, which I don't think I would read, she's probably not very happy. So, but having said that, I'm a Bad Babysitter, only being roughly 25 pages, was a pretty good read because it gets right to the fucking. Basically, you've got, the 40-year-old Mr. Moore, who's divorced by taking care of his 2 children, trying to go out and get a little. So he gets Emily to come over and babysit. Says, well, I probably won't be home till like 2 a.m. So Emily, because she's a very, very bad 18-year-old.
Conveniently enough.
Right.
How many 18-year-olds still babysit?
Apparently Emily does, because the money must be good.
Right.
So she calls up one of her boyfriends who's going to bring over pop brownies. And she didn't have to pay for the pop brownies. She just had to blow them for him. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, right. It's a common practice, I think.
She doesn't really need a job then. She's learned how to trade with Vijay.
Right? I think every woman should learn that trade. We talk often of this, don't we?
Correct.
So, but while blowing him, guess who comes home?
The dad?
Mr. Moore. And he is not at all happy. So,
I bet he's real mad about seeing the hot 18-year-old girl blow a dude.
right. And he didn't get any because he's home early.
Right.
So, it's like, he ends up, like, throwing her over his shoulder and carrying her upstairs. And then, basically just ripping her pants off and sticking his huge dick in her.
Right.
So, and then turning her over and spanking her a little bit. So it seems to be a theme. And then sticking his dick back in her. Now, I was all set to blow my load all over my stomach, as I am apt to do at times, when the very last line of the story, after he's come, all over her thighs, is he asked Emily, well, could we, would you want to do this again? And she said, absolutely, but maybe next time we could try it with some romance. That just killed my boner right there. I'm like, I want to.
Last line.
Right, the very last line.
Because it sounded pretty good.
It was pretty good right up until then. I mean, he was like banging her like a screen door in Wichita in the spring. It was. I mean, and the description was actually pretty good. I mean, she was too tight. She's obviously young, not wet enough. Just forcing that cock in there. Take it, little girl.
Oh.
And, right?
Crispy.
Yeah. And then the dreaded R word. Romance.
Wow.
Right? There's nothing for a dude that'll make their dick go down faster than romance. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm always apt occasionally to get a little bubble bath going, a little Barry White, light a few candles, and just have a nice soak. Kind of relax after a long week, but that's
self-love.
That's me time. That's not romance. Because the end result's still the same.
Right.
So I'm going to give that 2.5 boners, but I would stay away from some of her other stuff because the title scared me a little bit.
Like it's all just romance.
Like she was moving into that romance pretty
lovey-dovey.
Pretty fast, right? Like Mr. Moore's going to have an 18-year-old new wife.
Well, good for her.
Well,
she doesn't have to babysit anymore.
Right.
Trading vagina doesn't need a job.
Right. So then I also read, and I only read the first 13 pages of Donnie and the Demon's Church Charity.
That sounds very interesting.
It actually appeared interesting. I just kind of ran out of time, but basically the story is that Donnie Donnie, not Dana, Donnie has a costume shop.
Okay.
And so he calls his costume shop the Demon's Church because he actually drives around town in a demon's costume with giant wings and all red, and starts out with 5 very virgin-esque 18-year-olds. A lot of 18-year-olds out in the world. I don't know what happened, but they're everywhere.
They turn 18 and bam.
Bam, they're going to a costume shop, and Donnie's going to deflower them. So it was very virginistic, and I think that it probably will get hotter, though I have to say they spent a fair amount of time talking about how they didn't want costumes that were too revealing. Right?
Right.
Okay. So I was a little put off by it. I'm only going to give it like 1.5 boners.
Oh, well, too much backstory?
A lot of backstory. No sex in the first 12 pages. I don't understand it.
Too much. But you did find it in erotica.
Yes. Yeah, and all the stories can be found everywhere. That erotica can be found on Apple, on Smashwords, on Barnes & Noble, on Amazon. Can't believe I said that last one. I should have been saying it first.
Right. And Back to School can be found everywhere so far because it hasn't been banned yet. However, Google Play and Apple iBooks are not so crazy about a lot of other stuff lately. So if you can't find any of the new titles that we talk about on the show on Apple or Google Play, then go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Smashwords because they are heathens.
Right. Now, Smashwords, they do something really cool, don't they? Because it's usually in multiple formats. So you can actually, if you download the EPUB version, it'll open in iBooks if you're an Apple person.
Right, and they're doing that more and more in the smaller sites. Fiction for All and A1 Adult eBooks, more and more, like all of those formats are available. They're trying to, compete so that, you can read your porn on multiple different devices. Google Play, still, only with the Google device. Apple's only going to be with your iBook or your whatever. Your
iPhone, iPad,
right?
MacBook
and then,
Pro.
Course, Kindle is going to be with your Kindle. So,
right. Well, they're all trying to create a brand just for themselves, and we can't really hold that against them because you're a brand, Chanel.
That's right. But I do think you should, once you've purchased something, you should be able to read it anywhere, which is why I don't do the digital rights management on anything that I can choose not to have it on anymore. So that way you can transfer your porn from one device to another.
Right, so that your wife or husband don't see it.
Right. Well, that's part of it. We're not Ashley Madison around here. We actually care about
Which
people.
There's Ashley, a lot going on with Ashley Madison this week, huh?
Right. Very interesting that Josh Duggar, the
molester, alleged molester.
Well, no, that's been proven that he's a molester. The Christian, we have 19 kids, and Josh was the first of the 19. Molested 5 girls when they were teenagers. 4 of them were his sisters.
Well, a family that plays together.
And not stepsisters. I mean, blood relatives.
Right, that would be banned on Amazon.
Right.
Can't put that story out.
This is real inside.
Probably find it on Smashwords, but...
Right?
Yeah.
Smashwords very liberal that way. But, yeah, he's like the first celebrity, if you want to call him a celebrity, but that has been found in that list of Ashley Madison customers, and he apparently had 2 accounts on Ashley Madison, same email, 2 different usernames, and he had paid the extra money for a guaranteed affair, quote unquote, which, they told you had a certain amount of time, they guaranteed that you would fuck someone from the site.
I didn't even know they did that.
Right, and then he also had another dating account on OkCupid And on all of those sites, yeah, he's not married, and he's just like looking to hook up and whatnot.
I would think that being married, that his wife, parents, the 18 other brothers and sisters, including the 4 he molested, might look down upon him for this
his wife is
transgression
pregnant during this entire time, because of course, him and his wife are having multiple children, because apparently he's a quick draw McGraw. So on top of all of his other problems,
a little fast on the shootout, is he?
I'm going to go on the record right now and say that I'm pretty sure that Josh Duggar has a tiny wiener, too. I'm just going to say that, because I'm assuming that it's true.
Tiny wiener and shoots too fast.
Right.
Probably can't reload real fast either, I'd imagine.
Probably not. And probably it doesn't go down or anything. It's probably just all about him.
Right.
Because he's a man, and, Jesus was a man, and sex is for men because God said so, or some bullshit like that.
That seems to be the same excuse they wear for wearing, like, slippers outside.
Right.
Dudes with ugly feet should not wear slippers.
So, yeah. For the chicks on Ashley Madison who are hoping to hook up, I'm sure that the average customer was probably more like a Josh Duggar.
Well, I find it interesting, too, that we were talking about earlier that you said, like Ashley Madison was actually paying freelance writers to create profiles.
There's a freelance writer who sued. I don't know if the lawsuit's completed yet or not, but it's out there. You can look it up online if you Google Ashley Madison lawsuit. There's a freelance writer who is paid $34,000 for writing profiles for
fictional women.
For fictional women. So, she got together the picture and the whatnot, and she's suing them because of like carpal tunnel syndrome or something. But
how many profiles do you think she put up for $34,000?
I'm going to say a lot, because you usually don't pay like freelance people that much money. And so, yeah, there's a plethora of, and people that have used Ashley Madison have said time and time again, like when it came time to actually go out and meet a person, like most of the time it didn't work out. So apparently, like 90% of those female profiles are fake, and it's mostly just dudes.
Giant sausage fest,
right?
Maybe it should be named like Arnold Madison,
right? So I think if you find your mate's or spouse's email address on the Ashley Madison list, that probably means less than you think it does.
Well, it means that their intent was there, but they probably didn't actually consummate.
Which, you can still be upset about that, but I do think that the fact that he probably couldn't make it happen.
Well, I would also say that, anyone who is not a Duggar should count their blessings too, because even if you find, let's say, like your husband or wife's email on there, take hold in the fact that, they didn't molest any of their brothers or sisters, at least not that you know of.
Right.
And,
hopefully.
Right. And that they probably don't have a tiny dick. So, here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
Cheers.
Right.
Right. So you read one other story, didn't you?
I did.
I'm sorry, that was our What's New in Sex this week segment that apparently just snuck in there.
It did.
But there's a lot of it out there.
I did. I read something that was about exhibitionism, which isn't something that I think we've talked about at all. The story was called Mindy. The author's name is Ron Dawes, Dawes. The story starts out, Mindy's a rich housewife. Her husband's business tanks goes on the shitter, and during the recession.
Welcome to 2008, everybody.
Right. I'm going to say that, like, there was way too much of the story was about that part of it. Like, who the fuck cares? You could have done that in, like, a paragraph. However, when you finally got to the sex part, it was actually pretty hot. Mindy has a friend that she reconnects with from high school, and the friend has been working as a prostitute all this time while she was trying to be an actress. So when people tell you they're actresses, That's what they really do.
Right. I waited tables when I was pursuing my acting career.
Right, I know what you did, Crispy. But her specialty is guys that don't actually want to have sex. It's like they're more into like some role play and some odd stuff. So like one day at lunch, the friend's telling Mindy about this guy who hires her, but he can't fuck her because that would be cheating on his wife. But she strips and he jags off on her tits.
Oh, well, that's not cheating.
Right? That's what I said.
Big high five out to Bill Clinton. We love you, man.
And he's like an old man, and he's got like a teeny weeny little dick. I mean, the dude in the story. I'm going to say that Bill Clinton is hung like a mule.
I don't think it even matters.
And even if he's not, who cares? Because he's Bill Clinton.
Right.
You know you'd like take your panties off for Bill Clinton.
That dude's got so much game, it wouldn't matter. He could be smooth down there, and every woman would walk away going, that was fantastic.
Right.
I mean, that the amount of confidence and just the air about him is amazing.
Right. I wish Bill Clinton would come on our show.
Well, I think you'd wish Bill Clinton would come on you.
Right. Well, that'd be afterwards.
Right. Bill, you know, if things don't work out this election cycle with Hillary, and you're
well, you know, he's going to have time. He can, like, you know, play a little when Hillary's, like, in the White House because she's going to be too busy to keep track
Are
of
you
him.
kidding? The White House is going to be free for all.
Right.
And those Secret Service guys who were there like 10, 15 years ago, they're going to be like, Billy's coming back. Saddle up. It's going to get crazy.
It's going to be interesting.
Because think about what it would be like now where he's like, he doesn't have a job. He's just like,
he's unemployed.
He actually had to run the country before and think of the shenanigans. Now he's got like nothing to do except, you know, like go get a turkey and bacon sandwich and like just go crazy.
Just have like chicks sit on his face all the time.
Right? I mean,
and feed him his sandwich.
It creates a whole new expression to let her eat. I mean, it's just God, it would be so great. I mean, it would be so great if that happened. I'd love this country just a little bit more.
Right? That's a good go, Hillary, 2016. Okay, so Mindy, back to my story, starts masturbating to these, you know, accounts from her friend because she's like all about the dude seeing her naked and blah, blah, blah. So she volunteers to do one of the friend's customers who's into nurse medical play. So
we haven't done medical play before.
Right. So she has to wear this nurse costume, but she declines to put on a bra and panties underneath. So she gets them all worked up with her nipples and whatnot. And then
There's nothing better than a big old set of areolas and nipples, I gotta admit. It's pretty hot.
There you go. So then, you know, she's got her nurse's costume on, and she gives him a prostate massage and jerks him off in a towel. And gets her $125.
Seems a lot, doesn't it?
Right. I can't imagine doing that for, you know, that kind of money. But hey, she's broke, right? I'm going to give it 3.5 boners. Exhibitionism, not maybe necessarily my thing, but it was written, that part of it was written well. So Ron Dawes is all over Amazon, and he has a series of like sex party books, which may be good. So
nice.
Amazon, all other smut, Ron Dawes.
Right. Well, okay. So we had Chanel Ashby, back to school lesson 1. That's 5 boners. Oh, big 5 boners. Then we had I'm a Bad Babysitter by Wynn Burroughs. Little boner down at the end, but written pretty well. We're going to give this story 3 boners. I do not know what's going on with other work, so, you know, buy that at your own risk.
Boner beware.
Right. And then we had Donnie, the Demon's Church Charity, which I'm only going to give a couple boners. But you had 2 really good authors.
Yeah, the D&D, The Fine Setup by Dick Allen. That was
2.5
good.
boners, right?
That was good. And if you like backstory, like you actually continue masturbating to backstory, then you probably like his whole series. And this Mindy story, I'm saying 3.5 because the sex part was hot, just needed to be cut. The intro and being poor, because hello, who wants to read about being poor?
I think we're
cut to like 0.
Right. There's enough poor people out there that we don't need to read about it. Too.
I never make anybody poor.
There's no reason to reference that when you're trying to masturbate.
Right.
We all were there in 2008, 2009. We don't need to relive.
You can still afford to masturbate.
Right. Thank God that's free. God,
so far.
I'm sure Obama tried to tax it.
That's why you have to get Hillary Clinton in office, because you know the bill would not stand for taxation.
The no masturbation tax.
Masturbation.
Right. Don't tread on my cock. Something like that. So we continue our tour of America.
The greatest country in the world.
The absolutely greatest country in the world as we approach Labor Day. One of our fine 3-day weekend holidays. Can't wait. It's almost here.
Right. Have to go to the Super 8.
Oh, it's going to be a big weekend. I'm single again now, ladies. Don't forget.
Right. So, make sure everyone knows.
Right. Got to get the word out. Because,
nothing like getting over a broken heart with some new vajay.
Right. Man meat like this. Going to stay single for long. So, but we continue our tour of America as we profile sex terms that reference states and cities all over the U.S. It's like a refresher course of the U.S. geography, Chanel.
It's like 5th grade all over again, except I'm actually paying attention.
Right. That's why you're actually here.
Right.
It's like a huge beginning just in and of itself.
A flashback.
Right. So, there's symmetry in this week's story. We had a bunch of spanking, which seemed to all blend together. Now we're going to talk about Mormons.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right. Did
you know that Mormon porn is like a big thing now?
Are they billionaires?
No, it's
they're not poor, are they?
Mormon boy like sites. If you Google like Mormon boys, it's gay porn, and they're all supposedly Mormon.
So it's like gay porn and like the Tabernacle Choir.
Like twinks and...
But why Mormons? Why not just twinks? Look at their special underwear.
I think it's just the more taboo nature of it. Like they're just... You're not supposed to be doing it. So, everybody wants what they can't have.
That's true. Grass is always greener on the other side of a Mormon's ass, I guess.
Most definitely.
Right. So, but the Utah standoff.
I hope this doesn't have anything to do with poop.
I don't believe it does.
Excellent.
Okay. When two men, typically Mormon, notice I say Mormon, lock eyes, because you got to have that simpatico, and proceed to simultaneously give each other hand jobs in a contest to see who can withstand orgasming the longest. The first man to ejaculate has lost the Utah standoff and is by nature a gay. So this widely
first is gay.
Right? And this widely... I have actually a backstory on this.
Okay.
This is the only time we actually want backstory.
Right.
This widely practiced method of settling disputes originated among Adam Smith's early followers as a non-lethal alternative to dueling. Recently, it has been employed as a litmus test to determine where a man falls in the spectrum of sexuality, as a heterosexual man would obviously not allow another man to force him to come.
This is great. You know what? This goes along with that book we just were reviewing about I'm white and call myself heterosexual. However, I am participating in some uber faggot material.
Right. This is definitely faggotry at the highest level.
Right.
So these affairs are rarely witnessed as they occur behind closed doors due to the socially questionable nature of the practice, but are truly, when seen, a spectacle to behold. Just picture it. Two tall, towering Mormons standing there with a cock in each hand, jacking off to perhaps the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in the background singing Hallelujah. They
only have one dick in their hand, right? Because the one is jerking off the other, and the other So it's a circle. I mean, like
it's
the Dutch rudder.
It's a Dutch rudder. Yep.
Right.
Yep. So there is typically an exorbitant amount of grunting and grimacing, sweating. Well, that's really what you want when you're giving handies.
Right.
You know, try not to make out with each other, and occasionally crying. Well, that usually is what happens. It's usually crying.
Wow.
Ending with an outburst from the losing contestant that consists of equal parts orgasmic pleasure and shame.
Oh, I love it.
So it is also rumored that Joseph Smith hurriedly invented the Utah standoff to explain what was happening when someone walked in on him passionately and intensely jerking off one of his followers. But of course, that's just a rumor. So
I love it. That's very dominating. I have power over your orgasm. That is huge, dom sub.
And totally creating the shame and humiliation.
Oh, God, I'm putting that in a story.
I was just going to say, this is prime material for
This is my favorite state sex thing yet.
Right? I kind of thought you'd like it, but how do you walk away from that?
Right.
When you're challenged, you got to throw down.
Oh, and it's got God, it's got shame, it's got cum, it's got everything we need.
Right.
I'm using it. Thank you, Mormons.
Thank you, Joseph Smith. I also want to touch...
You faggot.
Yeah. Maybe the Mormons are an offshoot of the Scientologists.
Ooh, closeted gays.
Yeah, maybe.
Shaming closeted gays who do like a lot of vitamins and shit.
And then blow each other.
Nice.
Right. Not so bad. Don't judge.
Nothing better than the Bible to stir up a little need for porn.
Or hand jobs.
Or hand jobs. Or both.
Also, we mentioned pencourage.com last week. And I spent some time actually looking on that site. And it's basically an online diary. But what intrigued me was that 15% of all the postings were actually sex related. And I thought that was pretty interesting because people anonymously posting about their sex life isn't necessarily an unusual thing, but the format is kind of nice. What I didn't like was all just the random stupid stuff that people post. I mean,
couldn't get to like the hot stuff.
I must have scrolled through like 4 or 5 days, didn't come across one thing that was worth reading.
Oh, well, people ruin stuff like that.
Right. I think we should have like just a site where you just post things about sex.
Your confessions.
Right.
About the things that you jerk off to or all your nasty little whatever. You know what? It sounds good, but I would say that the likelihood would be that would get ruined too.
Probably.
Because you'd either have...
This is why we can't have nice things, Chanel.
Exactly.
We work and work and work. And you goddamn kids just ruin it.
I would say probably more than likely somebody would post some shit, I'm going to say pedophile shit is going to be the most likely. And then that's going to set off an alarm somewhere and your site gets shut down.
Right.
So, I mean, it sounds good, but unfortunately, one fucked up apple would ruin it for everyone.
There's always one.
Right.
So now, our featured fetish of the week. What did you have for that, Chanel?
I wanted to talk about what if you meet somebody who is an adult baby. Have you ever met anyone who is an adult baby, Chris?
I haven't. I must confess that I have been in a diaper a time or two, but that was really for my lady friend.
Interesting. However, adult babies are everywhere, and it's becoming a more and more... It probably was always popular, and due to the internet and people being able to talk about it is more out there now. But I do read a lot about people... writing in and asking like, oh, I met this guy and then he told me like he likes to wear a diaper. And does that mean, the first question seems to always be like, oh, does that mean like he's a kiddie, like a pedophile or, into kids or something? And I wanted to take the opportunity to say, no, 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 no. Adult baby diaper lovers or ABDLs.
It's about the farthest thing from that.
Is nothing to do with kids. Age play has nothing to do with kids. Someone who is a caretaker for an adult baby is not into kids. Even when you're doing role play where, okay, let's say you're with someone who's a baby and you're being their mommy. I'm doing my finger quotes around that. That's not about incest.
I thought you were giving an imaginary hand job.
Right. Now that's like this.
That's a stroke, right? I like the audio additions that you do to that.
Anyway, that's nothing to do with pedophilia, and role play and age play is nothing to do with kids. However, it is something that, people have kind of demonized, because I've seen only 2 different occasions where adult babies are talked about, like in television, and both times those people were, murderous freaks. It's like a cross-dressing thing where people don't understand it, so they turn it into something that it's so not.
They demonize it.
Exactly. So adult babies are just people that like to pretend that they're babies. And a lot of the time, adult baby play has nothing to do with sex. Some adult babies do sexualize their baby play. A lot of babies just want to sit around in a diaper and do things that they would have done when they were babies, like play with toys and cuddle a teddy bear and suck on a pacifier and that kind of stuff. So if you met somebody who wanted to be diapered and do some baby role play, and you decided, okay, I don't really know anything about this, but I'm willing to, try it, although I'm maybe a little weirded out by it. The first place I would say that you should go is Adult Baby Universe, which is www.abuniverse.com. First of all, because they follow me on Twitter, and they have since I first...
Hey, y'all, how you doing?
Right, since I first published The Boss and His Nanny, which makes me think that they have their eye on baby fetish erotica as well as supplies. The website's very thorough. Talk about the caregivers. There's a lot of stuff about the ABDL community. They give good information. And they also have the hookup on adult baby diapers.
Well, that you can't just go to Walmart, I guess.
Well, and you could.
But you probably want something a little fancier, right?
You probably want something a little fancier because it's a big part of this is getting into the role. So... and they also have beginner kits on Adult Baby Universe. So,
a little something to think about for your special somebody at Christmas.
Right. This is probably one of those things. Usually I say don't buy anything until you know you like it. But I think in order to do baby play, you're going to have to buy something. You have to buy diapers, most likely, and probably a bottle and or pacifier. And this is just really, it's another version of a BDSM relationship. Caregiver is the dominant, baby is the submissive, and this can incorporate a whole bunch of different fetishes. Babies can be into poop play and whatnot. However, they can also be into enema torture.
Torture? Hold it in.
If they're taking this to a more, maybe a darker place, enemas can be used for good and for evil. This can be...
mainly good.
Right.
Let's be real. It's not so evil.
Be something that incorporates breastfeeding and having mommy-baby role play. Some adult babies switch sexes when they're babies, so you can be with a man who, when they are a baby, is a little girl baby.
Interesting.
But it's also a good way to, if you've never done any kind of BDSM play before, take a typically dominant role, even as maybe a more submissive person, because let's say you could be like a nanny. Now you're in control of that baby and everything they do, but you can still be sweet and kind.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's the initial problem people have with taking on more of a dominant role.
Oh, they think that because a dominant role is supposed to be evil.
Like, oh, you have to come out with a whip and start beating the shit out of people. No, not at all. You can dominate someone with nothing more than a change in the inflection of your voice. That's
right.
all that's really needed. So anyway, if you meet someone who's into diaper play, it's all about the sensation of feeling that pee-pee in the diaper, and you can take it from there. If you try it and you like it, then go for it. There's a lot of good sources online, and another good place to possibly meet another person who's into pee-pee and diapers and whatnot. First of all, go to FetLife. There's a very active adult baby community. And I went to, it's adriansurley.com. So, just like it sounds, ADRIANSURLEY.com. And there are a whole bunch of adult babies and, nannies and mommies and daddies and babies that all talk about what they do in diapers and outside of diapers and whatnot, and you could probably get some good advice there.
Quite the little community they've got going for themselves, isn't it?
It really is, and it's something
Kudos to them that they should be able to find themselves. And
exactly. I think it's probably something that a lot of people didn't have the ability to do until the internet, because how many people are going to tell that to?
Well, not many, probably.
Right.
I have a diaper on. What's wrong with you? That's what they would say pre-1995.
Right.
Now, thanks to the internet, excuse me, people with like interests can find each other.
Right. That's what the internet's supposed to be for.
Right. A giant porn hub.
Instead of spying on people and telling nonsense.
Well, that's the government.
Right.
So.
And Ashley Madison.
Yeah, sure.
And hackers.
Yeah, giant sausage fest. That was really interesting. We're not going to do romance this week because I'm going to extend the jihad against Romance Writers of America. So please.
One more week of jihad?
One more week of jihad.
I thought jihads went on indefinitely.
Oh, I'm not canceling it next week. I'm just saying we're extending it due to popular demand.
Oh, okay.
The jihad against romance continues.
You're quitter jihad.
Right. I'm like that Persian ruck store that's going out of business like forever. Okay. Every time we drive by, going out of business. Right. Bank liquidation sale. They've been doing that for like 8 years.
Right.
So this is kind of like what I'm visualizing this to be.
Okay.
So, and I was really busy this week, so I didn't have a chance to find a fat girl who wrote porn.
Oh.
But they'll be next week.
Right.
So, but, which brings us to shameless plug for the most entertaining and talented smut writing mistress I know. Chanel can be found on Apple iBooks, Amazon, Smashwords, the Kindle Store, Google Plus, Barnes & Noble. What am I missing?
Nothing. I'm everywhere.
Right. Including,
I'm in your head.
Live it. She's not moving out anybody anytime soon either. So, and any other place that fine quality smut can be purchased online. And you can visit her blog at chanelashby.com. Freshly released for purchase this week, obviously, is Back to School Lesson 1.
Back to School Lesson 1 and Lesson 2.
Which I will be downloading shortly because I can't believe that Lesson 1 left me at a cliffhanger.
I know. Doesn't that just, it's awful. And Lesson 2 gets really nasty.
Right. So pay your $2.99.
Oh, you know what? It's only 99 cents. It's a bargain.
Oh, my God.
It's a back to school bargain.
It's a back to school special. That's what it is.
And then also, My Secretary's Revenge. Very hot. Guy is a chauvinist pig and is always hitting on his secretary, trying to knock boots and
Hey,
whatnot.
dudes, remember the good old days when you could hit on your secretary?
Right. Well, he thinks that he's having a drink with his secretary, but she roofies him. And he wakes up, and she gives him the ultimatum.
What's the ultimatum?
Either he can suck her big dick until she comes.
She's a she-male.
Of course.
Right. Didn't see that coming.
Or he can man up and become a secretary.
Well, I guess he's going to be a secretary, isn't he?
Right, and then he gets hit on by the other dudes in the office.
Something-
And at the end, he has to suck dicks anyway.
I was going to say, something tells me that he's still going to be sucking his secretary's dick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't get out of that.
No, it's the natural evolution of the story, isn't it?
Oh, well, one look at the dick and something changes.
Well, he's in pants already. Might as well just take the D.
Right.
Right.
Especially when he found out that he's going to have to do it for more than one day. He just didn't have that secretary thing in him.
No.
But he had something else in him.
Well, that's the third one? Second, third.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, get that. My secretary's revenge.
Well, we really appreciate all the work you do every week to bring, the quality to the internet smut that is out there, because we read some bad stuff. We read some good stuff too, but there have been some bad
We do
stuff.
read some bad stuff.
Right. So, we do not have a question this week either. But
That's
hopefully
okay.
we'll get one next week.
Okay.
Please, somebody email us. We love getting emails.
And send Chris P. a picture of your grandma's titties to Chris P.
Just
Love 69.
because I'm 62 does not mean I do not appreciate a young set of breasts. I do not need... Well, that's not to say I wouldn't want your grandma's titties, but...
I'm just saying you need some age-appropriate titties. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, well, you know what happened with Tadasha, so...
Right? You need an actual woman your own age that can challenge you a little. I know that's not what you want, but that's what you need.
That's not necessarily true.
I'm just saying that's what you need.
And, of course, we welcome all questions and comments about my love life and Chanel's reading or writings. Because she can read real good. There's no need to comment on that.
Right. I can actually read pretty good.
Right. To chrisplove69@gmail.com. And please do not send any naked pics or body parts of your grandma's titties or younger titties. Or you in a diaper. Or you doing ABDL play to chrisplove69@gmail.com. And we don't want any pictures of your junk or pics of you with your favorite sex toy in your diaper. Sent to chrisplove69@gmail.com. And we hope you all have a good week. Next week, we're going to do a special episode. So we won't be actually reviewing anything. We're going to do an episode on dungeons.
Excellent. I can hardly wait.
Right. It'll be a good time. So talk to y'all next week. Have a good week, Chanel.
You too, Chris.